Welcome to the show. We are so glad to have you joining us this evening for our first official episode of Talks with V. And the topic is toxic relationships. So, this evening we have the toxic relationship expert known as Taylor Made Speaks. We are super excited to have you. So, welcome, Taylor Made.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are too this evening. Well, this evening we're going to talk about toxic relationships. And so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Taylor Made. Taylor Made is a former military, Army police veteran, and police officer that has a decade of responding to 911 calls, domestic violent dispute calls. Today, Taylor Made Speaks has taken his past experience and is now a toxic relationship expert, helping men and women exit toxic relationships and empowering them to get back to self love. So that is amazing. I really, me, myself personally, appreciate you doing that. And I'm sure so many others do as well, because a lot of times, it's tough to navigate relationships as it is, let alone a toxic one. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm so excited that you decide to join the show. Yes, hello. Thank you for joining us. All right. So, Taylor Made, I have had the privilege to get to know you. But for our viewers at home, could you tell them a little bit about, share a little bit about you and what made you choose to use your experience to help, and to become a toxic relationship expert?
Yeah, so it's just so funny and it's amazing. I'm so happy to be here. I was just average person.
Mhm.
Nothing grand, nothing special about me. I was growing up through school. I wasn't your favorite, football player, basketball player. I
Mhm.
wasn't a rising star. I didn't make great grades. Just an average person. I decided to join the military at 17 years old. I was a
Right.
military police. And I did some traveling, and then I decided to get out and become a local police officer, and then decided to go in the federal government and become a federal police agent. And that's where my career have taken me.
Mhm.
And so I had a lot of experience responding to 911 calls, right? Especially domestic disputes. And so after going through all of those career and also helping my female friends, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
getting advice and stuff. And this was free. I was doing this for free.
Right.
Giving them some advice. They were picking my brains and helping them exit out of their relationship, and just never
Yeah.
thought of it as doing it as a business. And
Right,
so
right.
moving forward, I got out the police field. I still stayed in the security sector, doing a lot of behind the scenes security things.
Mhm.
Um, and then I decided to, I was doing motivational speaking and
Yeah.
empowerment, what have you, and I decided to do a hard pivot. Um,
Right.
Granted my whole business,
Wow.
and help people that's in toxic relationship. Now, it's not a fabulous job, right? It's not, I'm
Right.
not
I wouldn't imagine.
right. I'm not bringing people together as far as, matchmaker. I'm not helping people after they get out of their relationship to kind of help them get healed. I
Right.
am the guy that is the 911 call that I am in a serious relationship and I want out ASAP before we call the police, right?
Right,
And
right.
that's what I
Mm.
do.
No, that's really good, because when you think about it, you're not, it's just there's so many moving parts, right? And in a relationship, a lot of times you don't really see certain things coming until you're in it, unless you've done that, work, before hand. But let's just be honest and be real. Most people have not. They're just out here, I mean, we all know that, like, even just looking at today's times and how we moved to the place where it's mostly online, dating. Like, people are not meeting people out anymore. I mean, they're doing it, but it's just not it's not like it was before. Now there's this whole other world, and more people are taking, this route to meet people. And so I can't even say that one's better than the other, one's safer than the other, because you can meet, a lunatic online, you can meet a lunatic at the gas station, but sometimes you feel a little bit more comfortable meeting someone in person. But either way it goes, you can still run into a toxic relationship. So thank you so much, for that, and letting us know what made you pivot and take that route. We definitely appreciate it. So, for sure. So there are many different types of relationships that are toxic. Um, can you give us examples of different types of toxic relationships?
Oh,
And when you do so, what I would like as well, I didn't throw this in there, but I was thinking about it before the show. Also, can these toxic relationships be friendships, family members, things like that? Because, it's not always just romantic when we're talking toxic relationships, right?
no, absolutely. These when we talk about toxic relationship, we're talking about at your job, which I just did an episode on my podcast about
Mm,
your boss is toxic. Let's talk about that, right? There's a lot of people that dread waking up to go to work in the morning, right? And
yes.
that's why a lot of people die. Sorry to say this, when at home, they die on Sunday, right? Because
Mm,
they're
wow.
dreading, they're stressing, their blood pressures up because they don't want to face their toxic boss or their
Yeah.
toxic coworkers, right? How about
Mm,
how about that toxic child that you're raising? Oh yeah, we have some.
mm.
We don't
That's
talk about it. How about that narcissist child that is being raised and you are tiptoeing around them at the house? I just dealt with somebody that
mm,
she identified that her son is a narcissist, and she's tiptoeing around him at the house. She feels it.
wow.
He checks all the blocks, right? And so we
Wow.
have to really, really look at these areas. Yeah, you could have your family member. What about your mom that was a narcissist, and she
Mm.
creates drama at that
And she had
family?
to. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So it can
Right.
be different forms and different facets of our lives. It doesn't have to be, our significant other. It could be your coworker, your boss, your children, your family, right?
Yeah.
It could even be a business partner that you're working with, right? That
Wow.
you're in
Yeah.
contract with. So we have to be very careful.
Wow, that's really interesting that you say that too, because that is something to think about. And most people are not really uh, thinking about that, like how that's going to contribute to um, a violent or a toxic environment for like your grandkids. You know what I mean? Like when you're raising children. I mean, I don't have any kids, but just I would assume you're trying to do the best that you can, but sometimes you're not thinking about, so far in advance. You're just trying to take care of them, right? Trying to make sure that they make it home, trying to make sure that you feed them, clothe them, and, have that relationship. But a lot of times you're not spending that much time with them. And like you mentioned, a lot of times these people realize that their child is out of control, right? But they don't do anything about it until it's too late. And then it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? And I don't really want to own that. And that's one thing that I've seen too with a lot of, people that I know, like the whole family, and their child is toxic. But, when you have that conversation, it's kind of like, well, they don't want to admit it fully, because if they admit it fully, then that means that they got to own their part that they played, that they swept a lot of things under the rug. And that was something too that I wanted to ask you about, is sweeping it under the rug. Is that kind of a recipe for, you know, basically, what is it? Promoting a toxic person, by sweeping things under the rug, letting them get away with it, never really holding them accountable.
No, absolutely. It's really embarrassing. Let's just call it what it is when you
Mm,
realize that your family have an issue. especially
Yeah.
somebody that you love, right? It's embarrassing to know that your child might be or might have traits of let's say a narcissist, or let's say
Mm.
somebody that creates, because people itself is not toxic.
Mm.
We
Right.
do say, oh, she's toxic, he's toxic, let's stay
Mm.
away from them. I get it. It's just a figure of speech. But the actual person is not toxic, but the person have the ability to create a toxic situation or an environment. Don't you
Mm.
know it? Like there's somebody in your family that you
Hmm.
meet that comes to a family or a family gathering, family reunion, and
Right.
this person just have a way of just stirring up a fight within that family,
Yeah.
right? They physically ain't do nothing, but they have they have mastered a way how to just say the right things, poke the right buttons, and now everybody is at each other's throat.
Right, right. Yeah, they are master manipulators, I guess you could say in a way. And it sucks because I've experienced that. And it's just like, you do your best, but then when they do something and then you feed into it, you're like, oh, like darn it. Like I was trying so hard. I knew that this could happen. Like, why did I still, feed into it? And then you're kind of like upset, beating yourself up because you're just like, oh, like I knew it. I knew this already. But I totally understand where you're coming from with that because I've had that experience in life, with friends, with family, work, that and work is the worst because you feel like you got to be perfect, to an extent at work because, there's a lot going on and, you're like, okay, I can't completely let my hair down. Some people are lucky enough to have that kind of job where they can let their hair down some, but there's always someone who's going to remind you, not too much, not too much. Remember, you're still an employee here. You're not the boss. So,
No, 100%
so be
exactly.
careful
I
with
think, I
that.
think, I think to answer your question, I think that we do sweep it under the rug. We do hide, because, like I said, we're embarrassed and we're trying to protect and cover the individual that we love, right?
Mhm.
And and this is where a lot of things have happened in our lives through our
Yeah.
upbringing that we try to cover up. Some of us have been
Mm.
molested growing up, right? And we try to cover and protect the predator that was doing that to us, right? Some of our
Mm.
moms and narcissists, right? And sociopath, and just like her, but we try to keep it as a hush hush because we were programmed
Mm.
in certain cultures to whatever happens in the home stays in the home, right?
Right,
And
right,
that's something we have to change. We have to
right.
change that, right? Because the
Definitely.
things that happen in the home,
Mhm.
when we look back at it, right, wasn't right.
Right.
It's it's wrong. It's wrong to be inappropriately touched by your uncle. It's
Yes,
wrong.
it's
Right?
true.
And the thing
Yeah.
is, we don't want
It's
to expose them. We don't want them
right.
to go to jail. We don't want them to get in trouble. So
Mhm.
we kind of push it under the rug. It happened back in the day, but now we're having issues in our in our
Right.
current relationships.
Right. And probably had other issues as well and didn't realize it was attached to that. But when you get into a relationship, like, romantic one, or just someone who's maybe a roommate, or a best friend that you decide, okay, we're going to roommate together. And a lot of times, some of those things that are going on with you that are deeply rooted, they don't show up until you're around someone a lot, until you
Right.
have a more intimate relationship. And then, there's a trigger. I have a close friend of mine, and these are things I didn't know, but he, shared it with me that, um, what led to his divorce, there was a few things that were going on that they didn't really know about each other. And but one of the experience he was sharing is that he was kind of playing, with his wife and like, tickling her and stuff like that. And he was like laying on top of her and he was tickling her. And something about that like triggered her, like it brought back a memory from when her dad actually molested her and when she was coming up, and that like took her back to that moment. And so it's just like it's so important for to be real, with yourself, and to have at least one person, that's in your life that you feel safe with, that you can kind of, talk about these different things, but really just evaluating, yourself and some of your habits or your traits, along the way, that maybe you're kind of like, I don't really like that I do that, and I don't really know where it comes from. Let me look at that, because it's terrible, for that to come out so many years later in your 30s, and you're just like, oh my God, like my life is just falling apart because of these things that have happened to me, that I, decided, or I didn't know what to do, um, and didn't really deal with it. And that's the
Right.
thing, is because, just like you said, if it's a family member or someone close, or maybe even you're being threatened, you don't know what to do, or you don't feel safe, or you're just confused on, okay, what's the next step? What do I do here? And so then at that moment, it's kind of a fear thing. And then as time progresses, then it's kind of like, well, I should have said something a long time ago. So since I didn't say anything, I'll just let that just, die. I'm good, and that's a lie that people continue to tell themselves, is that they're good. Yes, those family secrets and generational curses.
100%.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. My mom had mentioned something about generational curses. I wish I could remember. It's so funny. We were just talking about that earlier. She's like, it's not generational, or she was just saying that it's choices. And to an extent, like I do agree with that, because we do make the choice,
Yes.
and then I kind of was, doing my thing where I'm, always thinking outside the box. And I was just like, maybe, yeah, maybe it is choices, like that soul contract that you make before you come here. Some people believe in that, that you choose, your family, you choose this experience. And, a lot of people would say, well, why would you choose that? But like, we're all on our own journey. And so I don't know, you can look at it anyway. So, but yeah, that's it's really something that we have to do better about, is like, stop sweeping these things on the rug. Let's take some accountability. And I definitely want, to make sure in the future that we have more conversations about that, because accountability is empowering. A lot of times it's scary, at first, because you're just like, oh, I don't want to be wrong. Oh, I don't want people to think this, da, da, da. But once you are, hold yourself accountable and hold other people accountable, you're able to move forward and make better decisions. So yeah. But moving on, so I want to talk about abuse, and how abuse is something that you would, experience in toxic relationships. But in so many cases, people, when they hear abuse, they're like, oh no, they associate it with physical abuse, like someone hitting you, or sexual abuse. And sometimes they don't even think about that. But those two are the first things that come to mind. So a lot of times they kind of miss it when there's the other types of abuse that exists out there. When they're happening, they kind of sweep that under the rug. So if
Right.
you can share with us, how do these other types of abuse show up in toxic relationships?
Yeah, we say mental abuse, and guess what? You know what? I'm
Mhm.
not I'm not going to let no gender escape
Yeah,
from this conversation, because women
yeah,
and men do it alike.
yeah.
Some women might not think that they're doing it, but when you call your guy, "Oh, you don't think. Oh,
Mhm.
that was a dumb decision." That's mental
Mhm.
abuse.
And verbal as
And
well.
verbal, excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah.
and verbal abuse, right? And so name calling, any sort of name calling. You don't think that was stupid. Um
Right.
it different gestures, right?
Mhm.
Could be a form of abuse.
Mhm.
Um we're talking about emotional abuse, right?
Mhm.
When you're telling somebody that they don't look good, they're ugly, they're fat, they need to go to the gym.
Mhm.
Why can't you look like this person? Trying to compare them to to somebody else that looks better.
Mhm.
That's a form of mental abuse. And it's really sad, because
Yeah.
parents do this to their children.
Oh yeah, I know. And that is the crazy part about it. It's really, but it's scary too, because when we are talking about the emotional piece of it, that is emotional and mental abuse. But when you're playing those games, you know what I mean? Some people are aware that they're doing it, but some people are so toxic that they don't even realize that
No.
that this is what they do, that they like belittle people, you know. That they belittle them, you know, in so many ways. And they're just thinking like, what's the problem? You know, I'm just pushing you because I know that you can be better than what you are, you know, and it's just it's really sad. But that's interesting that you had said that though with the parents thing, because I've seen that out, you know, in public, and I'm just like, why would they tell their kid that, you know, and why would there was a guy that actually was interested in me, and we were getting to know each other, and he just told me how his mom would just tell him how ugly he was.
Oh,
And it was so crazy because when I seen the picture of his mom, he looks just like his mom, you know, but better because he's a guy, you know. But I just couldn't believe that, you know, why? Like, why have this child and then like literally talk down to them and call them ugly and belittle them and make them feel small, you know, their whole life. That's crazy.
yeah, that's something that we all have experienced throughout our life, the name calling from our parents. And it might not have been like you're ugly,
Mhm.
it could be when we're getting punished, right? Those
Mhm.
words that's coming out of our parents' mouth is not pleasant, right? Especially in some of our
Right.
in some of the cultures, right? Some cultures do time out, they speak to their kids in a more softer tone, so they can
Mhm.
understand. And some cultures, that switch comes out and the
Mhm.
tone is elevated and it's yelling and you're every name in the book, right? And
Right, right, right.
and I think it's a learned behavior. It's a learned
Definitely.
behavior, and it's something that we have to really take into account. We have to hold ourselves accountable, and we have to reprogram our thinking.
Yes.
People reprogram your thinking, yada 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 yada. No, it's true. Reprogram how you think, because what a man thinketh
Mm.
proceedeth out of their mouth, right? Whatever you think
Mhm.
comes out, right? And so
Right.
be very careful. But on the same token, the receiver of the person that who is toxic have to be
Mhm.
able to control your emotions. And that's why you said, V, when
Right.
you was in front of that individual, you was like, oh, they got me, they pulled me in. Yeah, they pulled you in
Yep.
because you
Well, gotta do them
oh,
tests again. Yeah, no, and Dina, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Dinah. Okay. Dinah was just saying that yes, that our relationships are toxic when we individually are toxic. We need healing, and it takes daily work. We have to be interested in ourselves, love ourselves, and unlearn a lot of unhealthy behaviors. And that is so true. I mean, it's to your point as well. It's so true about unlearning those things, you know, because a lot of times you do feel trapped because you know how you came up, you know things that you experience, and a lot of times you do things that you don't even like. You'll find yourself doing certain things that maybe you know your parents did, or just people who are around you, who are involved, you know, with shaping, you know, who you are. Um, you don't like those things, but you end up doing those things. It's very easy to do, like you said, you know, if you're thinking about it, if that's been put and instilled into you, then it's going to come out. Let's see. Oh, well, I wouldn't say that. So you said, so you should date when you don't have any work left to do. Maybe I wouldn't say that. I would say that, well, I'll actually let Taylor Made, you know, answer that here in just a moment. And anybody else, if you guys have questions, throw them in the chat. Okay. Um, but to my point, you know, to the point of just like unlearning, you know, these behaviors, um, it's critical, you know, because if you desire a different type of life, and you may feel like, gosh, I'm held hostage, you know, like can't, have the life that I desire, but you can. It's just about, doing the work. And a lot of times people don't know what the work looks like. And I'll let you speak to that, Taylor Made, about doing the work. And then to Ava's question about should you not date until you've done all your work? And, I don't think you'll completely be done, until it's time for you to check out. But yeah, please share with us or answer that question for us.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it depends on the work that needs to be done. I think that if you have a problem where it comes to trust because your family did something to you and violated your trust and you can't trust anybody, then I don't think you should be doing work with anybody. I'm just going to be honest with you. Yes, life goes on. But if you are having a difficult time trusting in a relationship, okay? Trusting in a relationship, right? I wouldn't advise you to go and get married to the person. I wouldn't advise you to, because you're going to have problems through leading up to that marriage anyway. You're going to have problems, right?
Correct.
You're going to have trust problems, right? And so my thing is this, I'm not saying don't date. I'm saying get that fixed. Get that portion fixed, because trust is one of the number one things in a relationship, right?
Yeah.
I think that if there's other things you're saying you have to get work done, I think that is okay to date, because we're not perfect and we all have our baggages, we all have our issues. But if you have something that's going on in your past that is going to interfere with a partner, and when I'm saying interfere, I'm talking big things that's going to destroy a relationship. Trust is number one, right? If you have no trust, I don't see where that relationship is going to take off, right? So we have trust, number one. We have finance, number two, and communication. Those are the three things that build a relationship, right? There's other things, but those are three things. So if in those three things you have experienced something major in your life, I would suggest in those three areas, go and get the work done, meaning go and see somebody professional. I'm not saying take a break and you at home and you writing in your journal and you trying to fix yourself. A lot of people try to do that. You're not going to fix yourself. If you have an injury,
you might not have the tools.
Exactly. If you have an injury, do you just come back to the house after the injury and then try to work on yourself? No, we go to a doctor, right?
Right.
So same thing with the issues that you have faced in your past. You have to go to a professional, licensed person, male or female, right? And get the work done. Don't listen to your girlfriends. Don't let your family try to fix you. You can't fix yourself. And that's another thing. We try to fix ourselves.
Yeah.
If our car breaks down, we take our car to the mechanic. If our roof is leaking, we call the plumber. But when it comes to self, we try to work on our own self for our own issues, and it doesn't work. You can't repair yourself.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Very true, very true. It's interesting because even therapists have a therapist.
Even a coach have a coach.
You see, that's why relationships are the best one. Bond the friendship. That way. No, you're totally right. So I agree with you on that, and I always say that because when I think about the relationships that I have with my guy friends, I'm like, like I don't have the time to create this again, because those relationships are like 14 years, 6 years, 10 years, and it's just like I don't got 6 years to start this over, because those relationships, you feel like, okay, I can count on you and I can really like let down, all those guards, let down the walls, all that, and when you have your friends, when it's your friend, because you're like, we've been through a lot, already. Those girlfriends will jack you. Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure what you mean about that, but probably in more than one way. That's yeah, being ready to heal. And a lot of times people think that they're ready and they're not ready. For me, for a while, I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready, and then I realized there was a lot of moments that I was just agitated, and I was just like, okay. Okay. And then I felt like I was becoming negative, and I'm a very positive person. And so I was like, well, let me see, like I said earlier, let me take a look at that and see what's going on there. And doing the work, it is hard because then you get to see, you're forced to see yourself. And if you think that you're perfect, you'll find out that you're not. And that you won't like it, depending on how long you've been thinking that way. And you'll see certain sides that are ugly, but
It's
it's
true.
all you. It's all you. And you have to be able to look, yourself in the mirror and say, okay, there's this, there's that, and this is great, and this other part not so much, and this other part I hate it, and so you got to do something about it, reach out to someone who is experienced and can help you. And I always say, for people who are, raised in the church and just really like just churchy, and like, oh, okay, I'm just going to go to the pastor and we're going to pray. And this is not cool. Go to your church, speak to the church counselor and get a regular counselor as well. Because I think it's important to have that healthy balance. And that's just my personal opinion. So let me see, healing. Yeah, healing is not pretty. It really is. And let me see. Anyone, if you guys have questions, please throw them in the chat. Okay. So he said, learn how to appropriately channel your anger or trust issues. We all have baggage. And that is true. We do all have baggage. You're not going to get away from that. So to what Ava had asked about basically not dating until you're like all fixed. No, I think that's impossible. And I mean, Taylor, I mean, like you're not going to be done, right?
I'm going to stick to the 3 rule. If you have a major issue on communicating, finances, and trust, your relationship is going to be in trouble.
Right.
And so if you know and you have identified those things within you, then go and get the work done before you enter into a relationship. But if your communication is okay, your trust is okay, and you could take care of yourself. When I'm talking about finances, I'm talking about you are able to take care of yourself, right? Coming into the relationship, then it's okay because you guys are, you guys figure it out, however the bills and all that pay, right? All that work. But as long as you can take care of yourself, you can communicate, you're open to communication, and what is it? Communication, finances,
yeah.
Trust. And after that, other things, you can work on those things as time goes, right? We all know that.
You got the foundation, you got the foundation. And to be clear, taking care of yourself means it's not you have a job and you just got this job and you're staying with someone and you have a vehicle. Okay, you're not quite taking care of yourself just yet. You may need to just, maybe buy small conversations, nothing too serious because you are not stable. You need to have your own place. It can be small. You might have a little shack, but that's all right. It's yours. It's yours, and have your transportation, be able to take care of yourself without having to borrow from family members and friends. Because if that's the case, you ain't got no business, you ain't got no business in pursuing a relationship. I'm just throwing that out there.
Now, there are things that happen, right? Where you might be down on your luck, right? And somebody comes along, and those are special cases, right? Those are special, but just the everyday, I'm going to pursue someone.
Don't be intentionally trying to pursue someone when you're not taking care of you.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Let me see here. What is it? Almost all people do is remove their pus-filled, blood-soaked Band-Aids from old wounds and then put them on new wounds. Sounds disgusting reading that, but you're totally right. Homosexuals, oh my gosh. And it's so true. It's just like, how do you have the audacity, to try and put that on me, or
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, you are not ready. Like, you have to think and say, you know what? I'm not ready. I know right now I'm trash, like, and when I say that, and when I say that, that means just wilding out, doing what you want to do, not really giving a darn about anyone. And you're just like, I just want to have fun, but at least be honest, about that. Don't go into it really, let it thinking of making a person think that you're being intentional and you want a real relationship, but then you got all these crazy things going on, in your closet. As soon as you walk into your door, at home, as soon as you walk in to your place, you got all kinds of crazy things going on: skeletons, monsters, baby mamas, you know, kids, kids are fine, but kids by a bunch of different baby mamas and you don't have good relationships with them. Like, there's come on, don't do it. Don't do it to anyone, because you really wouldn't want someone to add to what you already have going on, and you don't want to be the person to add that to someone else's life, as well. Most people can't be real with themselves. How can I expect them to be real with me? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true. And that's where the work comes in. And that's why, for those that are, we're still a work in progress. So like I said, you have
Mhm.
those three things
Oh, yeah.
down pat: communication, the finance, and the trust. You know, you have to be honest with yourself and honest with the person that you're coming in contact with, right? You have
Mhm.
to be honest. You have to own what you are weak in, right? And that's one thing. Like, say, I'm going to use me as an example. For me, because I've been in the law enforcement field and in the military for all these years,
Mhm.
okay? I know that my demeanor can be very harsh,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I know that. I don't like,
That
I
military will
don't
do that to you.
You know, I don't like, I'm gonna be honest with you. Yeah, the military will do that. When I'm asked a question and I give an answer, I don't like to be questioned on my answer.
Right. You're like, you asked me, I gave you the answer, but for some reason, and you know what?
Right.
I can say I'm guilty of that sometimes, because I'd be like trying to be persuasive. Be like, so what you mean? What you mean to say is this, but it's you. That's in a playful way. But I totally get what you're saying. Like, don't do that, because then it's just like, okay, was I not speaking English? I said,
Right.
you know.
But
So,
but I can be the toxic person by doing that, right?
right,
Because
right.
people that's not in that arena is going to ask questions, right? They're not,
Mhm.
it's not like I'm talking to, my officers, or I'm not talking to my soldiers in the military where,
You're talking to
who-
regular, everyday people, yeah, who don't think
ex-
like that. They're like, "What's the big deal? I mean, I just asked you a question and you did answer it, but it just seemed like you were kind of unsure. And so I just wanted to make sure, like, what's the problem? Why are you so mad?"
ex- exactly.
So,
So because I know that I am like that,
mhm.
I have to make sure that um I am present. And that's the
Yeah,
thing. We're not present. We go about our every day, yeah, we might say our affirmations, we say our prayers, and we're going to be a better person today. And then the minute when that incident happened, right? If you're not conscious and present, like how sometimes you
yeah,
might argue when you're arguing, but it
mm,
seemed like everything around you stopped and you
right,
hear your own voice. That's being conscious. If people don't know what that is, that's being
mm.
conscious. When everything freezes and you're
Yeah,
able to speak and hear that voice in your mind, you're conscious. And that's where you have to take control of your emotion. And that's where it comes.
right,
That emotion that wants you to lash out, that emotion that wants you to say something rude, or that emotion that wants you to defend yourself. I got to defend myself. No, you don't
right,
have to defend anything. The person is
right,
toxic, not you. Stop
right.
defending, stop being, I have to protect. There's nothing to protect. You just,
And that's where you can catch yourself, though, too, when you, like, as you said, when you hear that voice. And for me, when I hear that voice and there's nothing else, and I'm just like, okay, this situation is getting out of control, but I can hear me. I'm like, okay, you're not going to get me today, you know? And I'm
Right.
able to say, you know what, I'm not going to feed into that. And I can see what's going on, that this person, they don't hear their voice, you know, they are just mad, you know, blacked out, and they don't even know what's happening right now. Because people have all, I'm sure you've had that experience where there's someone that you're used to talking to them, but then you've seen them a way that you've never seen them before. And if you're not present, it's gonna get crazy because they're not present whatsoever.
Yes.
They're just spewing out, you know, their emotional vomit, and it's uncontrollable, you know. So someone has to get it together and say, you know what? Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, or maybe, you know, we're missing each other. Yes, emotional vomit. Shout out to my friend Cliff. That's where I got it from. I was like, oh, I'm gonna use that. But yes, and so, you know, you have to, someone's got to be the bigger person, as they say. And
Absolutely.
I know a lot of times you get tired, because sometimes I get tired. I'm like, I don't feel like being the bigger person. This person really just needs to get this, you know, get this lashing, this tongue lashing real quick. But yeah. So how do you identify the toxic relationship when it's heading your way? And then I want to talk about, if you're married to someone who's toxic, what do you do?
Yeah, so so there's few things that you could look for, if it,
Mhm.
you know, and we're talking about just a toxic. We're not talking about narcissist or sociopath. That's a whole nother conversation, right? So we're
Right.
talking toxic person. Well, you can tell if a person, drama comes to them. You know,
Oh.
it's just a sign where, you know, you might be around a person, and he or she is at a fast food, right? They're having issues at the intercom talking to the person that's taking their order, right?
Uh-oh.
Issue at the
Gotta
car
be.
dealership. They have an issue at the store where they're buying their clothes, right? You just see
Mhm.
this kind of defense mode when it comes to people when they interact with with other people. You can tell, right?
Mhm.
Especially if they're being rude, right? Maybe
So
that's their
paying attention to that, those
absolutely
relationships and interactions that they have with other people, not just with you. Because sometimes people, they're a little self-absorbed themselves, so they don't really know what to look for, because they're kind of, you know, into themselves, and they're just like, oh, I'm worried about is how they treat me, you know. But all those red flags, you know, were there, you know, surrounding you, you know, and all those interactions when they were interacting with other people. So that's a good point, is to pay
100%.
attention to that.
Yep.
I love
How do
it.
they treat their family? How do they treat their
Mm,
mother and father? How do their mother and father treat them? Right?
mhm,
We always talk about mama boys, right?
mhm,
And daddy girls, right? How is the interaction from the parents to the person you're talking to?
mm,
Are they scared every time they're talking to their parents on the phone, right? Maybe their mother
mm,
and father's are narcissists, right? Those
mm.
are some things you got to be aware of, right? Because
Yeah.
remember, when you are involved with a narcissist, say your parents is, it's in you. Let me
Mm.
repeat that again. Narcissism,
Wow. I didn't think
learned
about that.
behavior. It's a learned behavior, people. It's a learned behavior.
Yeah, I didn't think about that, because, you know, a lot of times then I think typically I probably would see them as like, oh, you know, they just need someone, you know, to love on them. And I see them as the victim. But you're totally right, because if you're raised with this, there's a good chance that some of that is going to bleed off onto you, you know? And I'm just thinking about some of those interactions. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what was going on there. And I have had that experience. And or even just those, like when you're saying their parents, how are they when they interact with them? And just, you know, I dated a guy where he was allowing like his parents to kind of run everything, you know, from their house, from 20 miles away. I'm like, sir, you need to be the one, you know, running your own life over here. You know, like, what is going on? And it was kind of like, well, I don't know. Like, and that was kind of a thing about wanting to rescue everyone. And for me, I couldn't stand it. I'm like, sir, and I don't know. I mean, it was a long time ago, so maybe I was kind of like, just you need to be worried about me, But really, he needed to be worried, about himself and checking on
Right.
himself and just being present and being the captain of his own ship. Because for me, it made it hard for me to respect him once I identified that and seen that. I was like, well, I'm not going to be following you. I might as well go move in with your parents and, ask them what to do next, or, be in a relationship with them. And because you're not able to lead if you are still asking them questions, if you're still, directing everything back to that and afraid, of what are my parents going to think this and that. It's like, you're a grown man, sir.
100%.
I need you to know what you think about you, So let me see here. All right. Okay. Giving someone a responsibility to make you happy when you can't do it yourself is selfish. Yep. Let it sink in, people. And it's so true. Will Smith did say that about, his wife. And I love that, like that episode. I forget what it was on, but he was just saying that, her responsibility is not my responsibility. I mean, her happiness is not my responsibility. We come together and share our own happiness. And it's so true. It makes me think about, the statement that I said, to a friend. And I was just like, you have to learn how to fall in love with yourself. Yes. And that was a little gem, just a little download that came. And I needed to let that sink in because it's so true. You hear it all the time about self-love. We all, me and you hear it a lot, especially in what we do. And it's just like, do people really know what that means? Like, what does it look like? Because your self-love and my self-love is going to look different because I need to be loved different than you. So if I'm not spending that time to customize it specifically for me and what I need and what's going to work for me, then I'm doing myself a disservice. And then the people who are in my life, I'm doing them a disservice too, because I can't really love them fully if I'm all confused about what that looks like, for me. And I can't receive whatever love they're trying to give if I'm confused on what that looks like, for me. Okay. So is this an example of toxic relationship, even though both parties appear to be happy? Well, maybe they're faking it. What do you think?
If both
I'm trying to understand. Is this an example? Are you saying that if both parties seem that they're happy, could you still be in a toxic relationship? I think so.
No, 100. Well. I mean,
that's what most people who are married who are confused about a divorce coming like, hey, hold on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the key word is seem. So that's the answer right there, right? If they seem to be happy, then I think that's the answer right there. That means they're not happy.
It's fake, right?
Yeah. Fake. So yeah. So of course, there's a lot of things that the picture is painted, and see, people want this glamorous. They want this, living in this mansion and having the cars and all that stuff, right? And and what people don't understand is that there is always the truth behind every glass door, right? And so a lot of those people that are living in luxury have some issues just like us,
right?
And maybe a little more issue, right? Because they don't have to put up, they don't. their money enables them to do a lot of things, right? And
cover up a lot.
And not only that, their money enable you to stay a little longer, right? And so it's a twofold thing, right? Because a lot of people are in relationships because of money. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Okay. So what about that with marriage? Because that is a thing that happens with marriage. People marry someone because they need to be financially stable through them. So if you're in a toxic relationship, that you're married to someone who is toxic, or your marriage is toxic, how do you get out of that?
Well, I mean, is it something that is fixable? Because not every toxic relationship is, you exit, right?
Okay. Good point.
I have to identify if you're the toxic one. Oh, what if you're trying to exit something that is in you?
It's like you can't get away from it. You're gonna take it with you because you are the toxic one. It's
You're
like,
the
oh
toxic one, and some people realize that they're the
no.
toxic one when I talk to certain people that I've worked with. But the thing is, you have to identify what is toxic, because maybe it could be just a misunderstanding and you guys are clashing, right?
Right. Right.
Misunderstanding. Maybe you don't know your love languages, right? That
Right.
and of course it's not going to work. So it's going to
Right.
seem like you guys are arguing because I don't like gifts, but you're buying me all these things.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So
Exactly. That's
we have
good.
to understand, yeah, we have to understand what is each other's love language, what is each other's language, and we have to identify is maybe you're not toxic, but you just get on my nerve because you do this one thing that irks me every day, right?
Right.
Um,
Right.
Maybe it's the toilet seat that you're not putting down, and I told you to continue to put down the toilet seat at night, right? It could be
Hmm.
just little things like that, right? So that doesn't mean that, and then
Yeah,
those little things can
definitely.
stir up into big arguments, but that doesn't mean that, oh, I have to leave this relationship because it's toxic. It just means that this person needs to be conscious and put the toilet seat down after using it, right?
Right.
And you won't have that argument. So
Yep.
it's the will to take the action to make the change, and two people have to work together to do that. Now, if this
Yeah,
person is
for sure.
manipulating you, this person is jealous, if this person is speaking down to you, right? If this person
Hmm.
has cut your finances off, if this person have destroyed your relationship so you can be secluded to them, right? And pull
Mm.
you away. Now we have a whole different conversation, and
Right.
now you have to get a strategy plan to leave, right? We're talking leave. We're not talking, well, let me go to my cousin and then let me come back after 2 days. We're talking you're
Right.
serious, that you're in a situation and you need to get out. And so you have to find people, and there's people that you can
Hmm.
find to put a plan together. Not your girlfriends, not his sister.
Right.
Get away from him, but you're
Sometimes that can work, but most of the time it can't because there's a bias there. Unless you have someone who is not biased. You know what I mean? Because there's some people who are like, listen, I believe in what's right. You know, and knowing the difference between what's wrong and what's right. So that's good, but a lot of the
exactly
times family members enable that type of behavior and that person, like we talked about earlier, about having
yeah,
that crazy child that just very toxic, and the parent is scared of them. That's the
right.
worst situation, if once you realize you raised a monster and you're like, okay, what do we do here? But it's so funny that you talked about that toilet seat thing and almost almost had a flashback. I dated someone, and the only person I ever lived with. And it is so crazy because when we didn't live together, he would put the toilet seat down. And then when he moved in, he just would leave the toilet seat up. And so I was just like, is he doing it? Is he doing it on purpose? Like, I'm trying to
Mm,
figure out, is this on purpose? Like, are you trying to annoy me or what? And then I was thinking, like, well, maybe because this is just, he's real comfortable because he lives here now. But it was just interesting because then we had two restrooms, and he would leave mine up, but he would put the company restroom toilet seat down. Yeah. But he
yeah.
was toxic though. He was toxic and a little off. And I was just like, okay, son, but I was a believer for a while, being very positive. And then eventually I was just like, okay, this is you being, a lot of things. He was emotionally abusive, as far as like just playing those mind games. And I was just like,
Absolutely.
huh. But that toilet seat thing, I know, like sometimes I'm like, okay, is that a big deal or is it not? Like, is it a big deal? But I'm like, before you even make a real, real, real commitment, like marriage, I feel like let's get all those
Yeah.
things out
Let's
there
get
on
all
the
those
table.
things on the table. Yes.
Figure out what stuff is just like, okay, this is gonna drive me nuts. Like, can you not? So definitely, well, Well, I think that that is all of our questions, but I do want us to take this time now for you to share with everyone what things that you're working on, your book, and there was a toxic test I believe that I had seen on there.
Yes.
You had a toxic trait test book, and then
Oh,
the
it's
services
good.
that you provide.
It's good. Everybody that I've taken that test is like, wow, because that test can't make you escape.
Oh,
Everyone has a toxic trait in you, right? And
they might be
so,
scared.
oh yeah, that test is something else. And I scored a 10 on one of those areas. Oh man.
Oh no, you were like, wait a minute.
But
We're
yeah,
just gonna
I look.
scoot that one on to the bottom.
Yeah, because there are other tests that's out there,
Mhm.
but they kind of it's soft.
Oh,
It's
okay.
soft. This test is really, really leaning in, right? So no one
Okay.
escaped, right? No one, because that's
Mm.
the truth. Each of us have strengths and weaknesses in
Mhm.
different areas, right? So we're
Right.
all not perfect. So I want to do the test, I want to present the test that's going to really say, hey, this is not
Right.
100%, but you need to work on this area. So yeah, so there's a lot of things that I'm doing moving forward. You see a lot of videos that I'm posting on my posts.
Yes, yes.
um, I took a break
Mhm.
and kind of focus on Clubhouse, and then now so I'm back on my social media um stuff, and I'm doing a women's group, a women's empowerment group where I have on
Oh,
Facebook. I have about 2.4K members in that group. And
mhm.
what I do in that group is that my mom was a single parent,
Mhm.
that
Sorry.
raised me, and my way of giving back
Mhm.
to women for what my
Yes.
mom did for me is to uplift and encourage. That's all I'm doing. I'm not telling them how to live their life. I am not giving them no instructions. The only thing that I'm
Right.
doing is uplifting and
Yeah.
encouraging them to be the best version of themselves.
Oh, that's awesome. And so that where are you doing that? You're doing that on Facebook?
I'm doing that
That
on
group?
Facebook. Yep, I'm doing it on
Okay.
Facebook. It's a women empowerment group. I am going to be making a post about that tomorrow on my
Okay.
IG page to join. So I will have the link and everything. And
Awesome.
so
Awesome.
that is awesome. If anyone that's interested in join, please join that group. It's women's only, women only.
Okay.
Um, and then I have some other stuff coming down the pipe. I am so excited. I have a book that's coming out.
Yes. What's the title of that book?
So it's signs of a toxic relationship.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
I do have a freebie right now that's on my IG page that says 10 signs that you are in a toxic relationship. It's free, so you can go ahead and go to the link in my bio
Okay.
and download
Awesome.
that. And some other things. My podcast, I'm going to do that more. I do it every Friday, but I'm going to do that Mondays and Fridays. So I'm excited for those 2 days to really hone in.
Mhm.
The next podcast that I'm dropping, which is this Friday,
Okay.
is how to I was going to say take down, but I don't like to use the word take down. Is how to disarm a narcissist. So you don't want to miss that. I'm going to give
Ah,
you the tips on how to because here's the thing, you know, it's so easy to say you can just leave. You can just leave.
right.
Oh, I left, but in reality that's not the case.
Right.
Sometimes you have to. What if your child's a narcissist? You're just going to leave your child? No, you're not, right?
Right.
What if you're dealing with your boss? What if your mother is, right? So how do you navigate through these situations in a
Right.
continuous basis, right?
Right.
So I'm
Exactly.
excited for that. And
Yes,
then
that sounds awesome.
so I'm looking forward towards the future. Um,
Yes.
and yeah, I'm doing a lot of restructuring and what have you. So I'm excited.
Well, I believe big things are to come. I mean, it's been a joy just getting to know you and just seeing how passionate you are about what you're doing and for you to just to decide, to take all these tools. A lot of times we work for places and we are like, okay, I want to get out of here, but we don't realize that getting all these tools and gems that we can use and pour them in or give them to other people, or even make a whole career out of it. And so I'm just thrilled that you decided to do that. And I love seeing what you're doing, and you inspired me. And I'm just so glad that you came to join us this evening. And I think that everyone got a lot from the show. A lot of people, there's a lot of compliments in the chat. So definitely thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody in the audience. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And until next time, and make sure that you subscribe, like, and share this with someone, you know, maybe that's dating a narcissist, maybe that's in a toxic relationship, to help them out a little bit and direct them to Taylor Made Speaks. So thank you again,
I'll
Taylor
get you
Made.
out. I'll get you out.
Good night, everyone.